Hello and welcome to this awesome interview with Ben Chong at Cake. We love bringing awesome insights to startup issues to help founders and their teams. We love helping founders hack through the first phases and use best practices and cut out hours or weeks and save huge headaches. And today's interview is exactly this, so please take note. Uh, Obviously, we have a focus on equity ownership. Check out our website or YouTube for other topics. But today we have Ben from Right Click Capital, and we're going to cover startup advisors, specifically digging into the Founder Institute FAST, which we're huge fans of. So, why are advisors important? How to engage them? Successes and FOps at Cake. We have use the Founder Institute FAST. We recommend it. It's an awesome way to engage advisors. And so we're going to dig into that. So Ben, welcome.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You have an awesome CV. We're grateful, to have you. Looking at your LinkedIn, partner at Right Click Capital, general partner at Sydney Seed Fund, co-director of the Founder Institute, and also an honorary associate of the Institute of Technology in Sydney. So pretty good rap sheet there, mate. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Tell us a little bit about Right Click Capital first, just to give the people a little bit more context.
We're an Australian-based venture capital fund. We invest in technology companies across Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia. We love software, we like deep technology, and we also invest in IoT, connected devices, as the world becomes more and more connected.
Amazing, and thank you for investing into the community. As a founder, we're all very grateful. I also see, Founder Institute. I think we originally met a year or two ago through Cheryl Mack, and I did some mentoring for a cohort. Great program and community for those that want to check it out. Would you tell us a little bit about the Founder Institute and your involvement there, please, mate?
For sure. The Founder Institute is a worldwide network of mentors who want to help founders build meaningful and enduring technology companies. Started in Palo Alto, the heart of Silicon Valley, over 10 years ago, we've helped thousands of founders across over 150 cities around the world build their dream company. And we have a core program that runs for 3 months, where founders have the opportunity to learn at the feet of mentors so that they're able to progress through their startup journey, hopefully a little faster than if they were working alone.
I couldn't recommend it highly enough. I think particularly for first-time founders in the first couple of years of their journey, learning from a community like Founder Institute is really going to save you a hell of a lot of heartache and help you hack through those things. So, all right, let's dig into this specific issue around startup advisors, the very important topic. I'm just going to do a little bit of my admin out in open here because I'm a amateur interviewer, so I'm going to set my timer so we don't talk too much. Thank you for bearing with me with that. All right, so let's get into it. So let's do the basics, Ben. What is a startup advisor? What's the difference between an advisor and mentor and coach?
Great question. I think sometimes these terms can be used interchangeably, but if you think about it, a coach is someone who usually works on 1 or 2 areas of their specialty. A coach need not necessarily be an absolute expert in the field of sport or in the field of business, but they help you to perform better. A mentor tends to be someone you get along with, who usually has got experience that you look up to, who takes time out to assist you, to help you grow. Now, I'd say an advisor can play the role of a mentor, can play the role of a coach, but an advisor tends to be a more formal role. It can start off a little more organically, but it tends to be a more formal role. And it's like a formal role for a period of time, usually. Sometimes it can be indefinite, but you usually want them to sign up for a particular time. And they're designed to help you grow your business as you go on the journey. And of course, there's stuff that the advisor gets out of it too.
Great answer. Fantastic. And just to dig into that a tiny bit more, so there can be different types of advisors. And I think specifically with a startup, if you're very early, you might have quite a general advisor that's helping you across the board. But then as you grow, if you have particular challenges, you could have a technology advisor, and you might have a go-to-market advisor, you might have an advisor specifically for a certain market. How do you see, does that sound right to you?
I think that's right, Jason. It is a little bit like how long is a piece of string? It really depends for what purpose. And it also depends where you are in your startup journey or your business growth journey, and if you're missing something. So let's say I'm a business co-founder and I feel I need to have someone who is more of an expert in blockchain, or I'm trying to do something in the insurance space. And while I have worked in insurance, I really would like an advisor on my team who's got 20 years worth of experience in that field. Well, maybe it's good to find that advisor so that they're able to make sure you can hopefully better look around the corner.
Oh, I love that, looking around corners. I use that very regularly. So you've led me perfectly into the next question, which is why, our advisors valuable. I'm going to give a little bit of a cake perspective if everybody can give me that time, because we've had some wonderful advisors over the years, both sort of formal and informal. I mean, right in the beginning, when my co-founder and I were starting out, we had a product advisor, Chris Sard, very well-known product advisor, ex-Uber, really to try and get that product thinking into the company. Then as we progressed, we had, Dean McAvoy, another very well-known Australian advisor, come on and help us to open up new markets and networks and help us to crack our business model. As we progressed along, we've had help from Lauren Kaplan, again, from a networking perspective, that was a non-formal advice. We've had our VC, Rampersand, bring in advisors from their network to help us with particular problems. And, being part of StartMate was a huge advantage for us because it's just full of incredible advisors, and some of them act as mentors, but then that mentor network can be a great place to actually then formalize that a little bit more into advisory roles. And so, look, we certainly wouldn't be where we are today without the advisors and mentors that we have. But from your perspective, Ben, anything to add on the benefits to the startup from these advisors?
I think there's some great examples that you provide there, Jason. I would say the thing that you've highlighted is that the types of advisors you might engage with may change over the course of your startup's life cycle. So in the early days, you might need more help with product. You might, as you get a bit larger, need more help with how do I position my business to be able to expand into international markets. And then as the business gets perhaps even more progressed, you're thinking, how do I build a really high-performing team around me, particularly a team that might be in different geographies, who might be somewhat remote. So what are those experiences? What are the gaps that I have or our team has that could benefit from an advisor?
100%. Just to dig in a little bit to that looking around corners thing that you talked about before, one of the most obvious things to me now, after being a founder for nearly 5 years or so, is how much you have to learn, how quickly you have to learn, and how every 3 to 6 months you have to relearn a completely new, very difficult skill set.
That's right.
And so you just constantly need these people that are like a year or two ahead of you, ideally, or have a very niche skill that you need to be able to help you jump forward in this learning that I couldn't imagine having to do it from a book and you can't do it without learning. It would be impossible. So yeah, it's just the seeing around the corners thing, I think, is the ultimate benefit to a startup.
Definitely. And look, if you think about it, we've all benefited from standing on the shoulders of others. Whether in a preschool, we had someone teaching us the numbers and the alphabet. In primary school, we had people teaching us how to interact with others. In high school, whether you're into the sports,
hopefully.
Whether you're in high school,
then you learn it one way or the
other. You just think about those people who you have been able to benefit from.
Yep.
And I think a lot about that when it comes to startup life. We should always be open to being challenged and to learning.
Being humble, learning fast, understanding that people want to give back. I think it can be hard initially to ask for help, but every successful founder has had so much help. and they want to pass it on. So I think that that's a really important insight that founders need to be aware of.
For sure, and it's a two-way street too. So in as much as you might be asking an advisor, going back to my insurance example, to give you help and feedback around what they've seen, what patterns they've seen in the last 20 years of their insurance journey, well, they're probably getting juiced up by seeing what you're doing. What is the problem that special problem that you're trying to solve with your solution? They're probably juiced up by how do you go about knocking on doors and winning the attention of your potential customers. So it is a two-way street. They do learn and they get juiced from being with smaller, nimble companies that are trying to do something better.
100% can keep them young, can keep them engaged into new technology. I think that I've never worked with a founder that didn't seem energized by what we were doing. So really important insight there that, on the two-way street. So we will dig into a couple of those things a little bit more as we go. Let's talk about finding the right advisors. I guess my view is that you want advisors from day one, and then we've already talked about how they change over time. We can dig into that a little bit. How about yourself? What's your thoughts on where and when to find, the right advisors?
I think there are a couple of ways you can go about it. One is being part of your local startup community. So being part of, as you were saying, whether it's well-known programs, whether it is being part of a co-working space that encourages mentors and potential advisors to come through the doors. Being part of a community is very important. I'd also say being able to create connections with people who might know other people. So I've benefited from advisors who have been referred to me by a friend. So they're a friend's friend or a friend's contact. And then I've gone and reached out to them, and it's often started out as organic. Can we have a coffee? And then maybe, oh, that was a fantastic conversation. I'd really like to take you out to lunch so that I can learn a little bit more and we can build a relationship. And similarly to a mentor relationship, I think with an advisor, you do want to get to know them. You want to see them over a couple of meetings, see if there's that chemistry, see if there's an interest, and then we can later talk about how you might bring that to a more formal arrangement.
I love that. It really resonates with me. I'm always advocating founders, getting involved in communities. Many of them do that naturally, but many don't. And from my perspective, I guess being from a regional city and, not to hassle the Gold Coast because I love the Gold Coast and it's growing up fast, but I think, if you're in Sydney, if you're in San Francisco, if you're really in one of these hubs where the concentration of mentors and advisors are very high and the quality is very, very high, I think it can be a little bit easier. But I think it's important, when you're looking at the communities that you get involved in, that you look for that level of excellence and experience. It does really help you to choose the right advisors and perhaps not spend time with advisors that aren't as I guess fit for the job. So for me, it's like looking for, if you're a SaaS, you want to look for someone that's done a SaaS scale up and really has that experience, and you want it to be as relevant and recent as possible. I'd also add accelerator networks, from my experience, are wonderful places to find advisors. And like you said, quite often you'll see them as a mentor first, and it's great to spend time with an advisor as a mentor before you formalize it, because they play such an important role. And if you get the wrong advisor, it can take you 3 or 6 months to understand that. And of course, these things happen, that's fine. But those early discussions, those mentor relationships can help you choose really well there.
Sure.
And then we talked a little bit about how they change over time. So from Cake's perspective, of course, how do we set our business model up from day one was the first one. And, how do you be SaaS? And should we do this or that? And all these really early stage things that, seem like ridiculous now, but you got to learn them somehow. And then, then it becomes, all right, well, how do we get to 1 million ARR and how do we go expand globally? And now it's like, how do we get to 10 million ARR, and how do we build an executive team, and like what do founders do when they have an executive team, and like all these new changes that come through over time. And one thing I like to talk to founders about is just have monthly or quarterly catch-ups with your advisors and just make sure the relationship is still valuable in both ways. And you will find that advisors are normally happy to split up and go advise somebody else if things aren't, you know, working out, and it's not normally anyone's done anything wrong, and can just be, hey, look, we've kind of grown up past that now. We need to take our, you know, advisory budget and utilize it in a way that makes more sense for us.
Exactly. And I think to that point, there is no necessarily one right way to build and to continue the relationship with an advisor. So I know of some founders who will arrange a monthly call, maybe it's a half an hour or hourly call once a month with an advisor. And I must say there is something good, I think, about scheduling things in the diary instead
I agree.
of random calls whenever I feel like it. Of course, you can make another call in between that half-hour monthly catch-up, but having that in the diary is a helpful cadence and a touch point. And I know there's another group of founders who have benefited where they might have 2 advisors or 3 advisors, and they will have a more formal advisory committee type meeting with those advisors, not once a month. That would be a little too frequent, but it might be every 2 or 3 months, maybe 4 meetings over the course of a year, and maybe 2 of those meetings are in person. Because again, there's nothing like being able to go and have a lunch or have a drink or a dinner after the advisory committee meeting with those advisors.
It's almost like the beginning of a board, isn't it? So at Cake goes in a slightly different path. I've certainly seen founders that have like a little sort of like advisory board, and they all sit together, they problem solve together, and they, you know, you probably still do have like a broad skill set within your advisory group, but you know, do it together. What Cake's chosen to do is have specific advisors for specific things, and they meet with the individual leaders to help them, you know, see around those corners, and perhaps sometimes it's just like a sounding board. Hey, I'm doing this. Yeah. You know, when you're talking out loud to someone, like the penny's dropping all the time, and they can give you little nuggets. And so we have one on engineering, we have one on culture, we have one for ops, you know, and so all the leaders kind of have someone that helps them, and you know, it's a wonderful way for us. But I think over time, I'd quite like to have you know, an advisory board of sorts where we can, you know, look to try and take the whole company forward together. You know, so I guess there's different ways to skin that cat.
Exactly, and sometimes too much formality in the early days is overkill, as I think you're suggesting, Jason. So I really like the idea of having different advisors who are known for a particular skill or level of experience. So yes, your people and culture leader can float the balloon in front of that advisor and go, I'm thinking of this, what's your feedback? So cool.
And how should we compensate these advisors? I think you've got like there's intrinsic value, you know, they want to come on the mission and everything, and that's nice. And, you know, but like, you know, there needs to be compensation. I think there needs to be some skin in the game to build trust and make sure that this relationship is meaningful. And there's, I guess, there's cash remuneration and equity remuneration. Have you got it? What would you say about both those things from your perspective and experience?
I'm going to say something that in itself might be contradictory, but I'll explain. In the early stages of a business's life, cash is critical. So you've got to watch your cash. And at the same time, we know that equity can be very valuable. Now, Cake helps you manage your equity. It allows everyone.
It does, but we've also seen how fast it can disappear. So you need to be really careful with that as well.
You do need to be careful. You do need to be judicious. My general guidance is if you can provide equity to people, that is a good form of remuneration because it is tied to long-term alignment. As a founder, I shouldn't be too interested in my salary. Of course, I need to have a salary to be able to pay the bills, to not have a distraction in my mind around how am I going to live for the next year. When it comes to advisors, I would suggest if you're able to come to an arrangement where you can give them equity and the equity vests over time, that is a really good way of making sure that there is an alignment, because their payoff financially is when the business succeeds.
I 100% agree. I think cash is so hard to come by very early on, and needs to be retained, used as efficiently as possible. And if you can utilize your equity for your advisors, it's a much better fit from an alignment perspective, as you say, and to keep the cash burn down. Sometimes it's part cash, part equity. So some advisors might want a little bit of cash along the way. So if you can get, 50% of their deal in equity or 75% of their deal in equity, that can be a nice situation as well.
Yep.
Some advisors just feel like getting some cash makes the company feel a little bit more invested in that relationship. And I can sort of feel that as well. But I think in general, you want to use your equity for your advisory board as much as possible. That's just from my experience.
Yeah, I concur, Jason. And obviously, if you've got an advisor who is in another city or a different town, and you're wanting them to meet up, it would be very fair for the company to pay for their travel expenses, so they're not out of pocket. But yes, if you're able to use the equity, that is preferable.
Well, we couldn't have segued ourselves better into the Founder Institute fast, which is kind of the hero of the session. From my experience, I don't know exactly when I stumbled across it, but we were grappling with this. We knew we needed advisors. We were paying some cash, we were paying some equity, and it just didn't feel like systemized and streamlined and fair. And then somebody showed it to me one day, and I thought, wow, it's standardized. It helps you calculate how much to give everybody. You can kind of have everybody on the same deal, which is always a nice thing in a startup, because you don't have this whole, am I more valuable than them, or any of that stuff. Overall, love it. We use it here with our advisors, and we recommend it. So would you mind telling us a little bit about the agreement, where it came from, why you guys love it, and just give everyone like an overview of
Sure.
the agreement?
Well, the FAST stands for the Founder Advisor Standard Template. And it was put together by Founder Institute some years ago, over 10 years ago, and it's been updated since. And what it sets out are some principles and guidelines around how to remunerate advisors to your startup. In fact, it sets out some guidance around the percentage of equity you might want to give them based on the stage of your company and their level of involvement. So clearly, if your company is a really early stage company and their level of involvement is low, well, the amount of equity they get will be different to if you're the same early stage company and their level of involvement is very high. And in the same breath, if your company is more progressed, well, the actual percentage of equity they ought to get, in our view, ought to be a little less. That's because the value of your company should have increased significantly since when it was small.
We've all worked with companies where they're like, well, how do I value my company? I'm in between rounds, or I haven't done a valuation yet. I've been doing safes. Like, it can get so weird, and then you've got to do special valuations for people, and nobody wants to deal with any of that. And you just get this nice little table that says, look, can we just agree which section I'm in? Great. Is everybody else using this? And it's all fair and reasonable. And it's just saves so many headaches.
That's right, because it's used by lots of people, and the data in there, so the suggested percentages has come from a lot of the Founder Institute companies, which is quite a few, along with other startup companies, not only in the United States, but across the world. So there is some benchmarking that has gone into this.
Yep.
And like any tool, no one tool is completely perfect. But I think, as you're saying, Jason, can we agree that we're roughly in this bracket? Okay, let's do this. Because if you think about it, no compensation plan or policy is 100% correct. but you want it to be at least 80, 90% correct in the right ballpark.
You have got so many problems getting up to Series A. You need to hack every single one of them to have any chance of making it there. Momentum is critical. So if you're spending weeks mucking around doing deals with every advisor, you are in big trouble. So I'm a huge advocate for that. Look, jumping in, just playing a little bit of devil's advocate, or like just testing a little bit, looking for an edge case. Some people will say, hey, like it's not enough, like I feel like I'm worth more than that. Have you come across that feedback? Are you happy to sort of chat through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. We're really happy. I'd say if you feel that there is an advisor who could potentially add significant value, you could try to agree something with them beforehand, or if there is trust, you could let them know, one, we start off with this, and if things come off well, we may be able to give you more. Now, you can't make that statement unless you truly believe it, that you will want to give them more, because it all comes, like there's trust there. But yeah, I think it's a bit of a negotiation.
What you've done there is also set me up for the cake system. So, you'll sign that fast, but you still need to give them the equity offer. And so, you would sign that agreement, then you can go into cake, you can put in the terms, and you can send them their equity offer. And so you might have the standard fast for 90% of your advisors, but just say someone is extra valuable. What you could do is have a milestone-based separate ESOP offer, or the same offer with, with two components to it that says, great, if you can outperform in this way, like a major partner, or like, like some major customer or something, which it can be incredibly valuable. There's a bit more equity on the table here, but perhaps we can separate that. Love how you tackled that. Well done. And that's going to lead me into, do you think we covered the fast well enough there? I want to make sure we give it enough space.
Yeah, I would say check it out. It's on the Founder Institute website. It's free for any founder worldwide to download and to take advantage of. Go for it.
Love it. Look, we're big believers in that. A lot of the cake agreements are similar in that they've been used so many times. They've had so many founders and lawyers and everybody look at them that they're really, really quick and easy to use. So don't be scared to look at the other agreements that are built into the cake system. Just take the opportunity for a quick plug there. Let's finish off with some F-ups and some successes that we can talk to, just to help people understand, like, practically, how it could go wrong and how it can go right. So we talked a little bit about, what did we talk about there? We talked a little bit about, like, how much advisors can get. So certainly from my perspective, I've seen accountants with 10%. I've seen like the first software development company with 10%. I've seen an advisor doing half a day a month with 10%, or asking for 10%.
Wow.
Like crazy.
Wow. I think there are some people who I would suggest are unreasonable. So if an accountant is asking for 10%, unless they are a co-founder type person or investing capital, as in cash, then there must be something very special they're doing in order to get that. Put another way,
it's not going to be the case, right? That's not going to be happening.
That's very unorthodox in my opinion.
Let's tell everyone 1 to 2% over 2 years is what advisors get. Don't be giving them 5s or 10s,
exactly,
like that, unless they're a co-founder or they're working on the company every day. That's different. But yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other thing is that if you've got an advisor who asks for shares that cannot be diluted, that to me is an alarm bell, right?
Definitely.
As a founder, my shares will get diluted when a venture capitalist or when an angel or when a new ESOP scheme gets put in place. So we all get diluted. So people who ask for that, that's weird. I think having very clear goals, and this is, I think, the difference between a mentor and an advisor, having clear expectations and having that written down. So if you're able to do that as part of the equity offer, all the more, because I think when there is ambiguity or mismatch of expectations, that's when people go, oh, I thought a half an hour call once every 6 weeks is enough. It's like, no, dude, I need you to make introductions to these people in your Rolodex. Come on.
100%. And the Founder Institute does it. It steps it out, and then you should have a separate agreement, so love it, love it. All right, let's finish on a high. I've gone a little bit long, sorry, Ben, but we'll finish up now on a high.
Cool.
Some success stories. From Cake's perspective, there's no way we would be where we are without our advisors. I've already talked about some of them. We had advisors initially for business model. We've had go-to-market advisors. We've had just champions that would really help us that perhaps didn't get equity. We had some that just our first round and our second round, and we had ones that did global research for us. We've just had so much help, and we're so grateful for those people, and they have had a great time doing it too. I must admit, it's fun for them. What about yourself, mate? Any big success stories that we can highlight and finish off with?
I would say it's much the same. I've been so lucky to have benefited from these advisors. And what we try to do, we don't always get it right, but we try to acknowledge them, whether it's a thank you note, whether it's a little gift from time to time, or taking them out for lunch. I think being able to recognise them and have them on the journey with you. Even people who might have been your advisors, some of my advisors from a couple of years ago, we still try to stay in touch with them, because ultimately they're part of the extended family of cheerleaders, of people who in future you might need a reference, or in future they might be able to give you an introduction to so-and-so. Being able to bring people along for the ride so that they can say, Jason, Kate, they're good people. We want to deal with them. They're people who say what they do, and they learn from their mistakes to become even better. Fantastic.
Yeah, there's no currency like that on the planet in 2022 and beyond. I totally appreciate that. So look, Ben, really appreciate your time. I think we smashed it. I'm sure we've helped founders and startup crew out there through this topic. Look, Cake loves unearthing hacks and guides for founders and startups. Check out our website and our YouTube. Definitely check out Ben and Right Click Capital and the Founder Institute as well. Thanks again, Ben. Everybody, have a great one.
See ya.
See ya.